Karena langsung
Pagi.
Good morning, Bapak and Ibu and all the participants. Thank you for joining the second day of the International Professional Week 2022. I am Dahlia Darmayanti and I'm going to be the moderator for this morning session. Before start the session, I would like to convey some of the rules of our webinar this morning. First of all, I would like you to unmute your microphone all times, and unless you are given the permission to unmute the microphone. The second one, please turn on your camera if possible. And for the student, kindly change your names to the name, full name, as well as your session. Okay. And then for the SAT points for Venusian who participated for at least 80% of the discussion will be awarded, as well as later on you have to fill in the exit ticket. And for the Q&A session, you can use the chat room for the Q&A, as well as you can also raise your hand later on and directly to ask your question to the speakers. Okay, I think without further ado, I would like to invite and welcome Pak Dyota Marsudi, who is currently the President Director of PT Bank Aladin Syariah Tbk, the first digital bank Syariah Indonesia. Prior to Aladin Bank, Pak Dyota was the Senior Executive Director for Fairfax Ventures, as well as a management consultant with the Boston Consulting Group, or BCG, for about 6 years. Pak Dyota earned his Bachelor of Economics from University of Indonesia, majoring accounting, and after that, he continued his MBA to INSEAD. Pak Dyota, I think without further ado, I would like you to share with you your experience with the Bank Aladin Syariah Indonesia. Thank you.
Sure, thanks, Bu Lia. Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Dyota. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. I think Bu, if we can do maybe like 2 sessions here. So I think the first session I'll take maybe 15 minutes or so just to introduce you guys to Aladin. After that, we can go through Q&A. Maybe Bulia, you have a few questions in mind, but happy to take questions from the floor. So let me just share my screen real quick. You guys can see this, and it's moving.
Yes, Pak.
Okay, cool. So look, in summary, Bank Aladin is a listed, licensed digital Sharia bank. We're the only one in the country. Our target segment is underbanked and unbanked. And the reason why we created this thesis is because we saw large opportunities in the market, right? So first and foremost, these are typical kind of like Indonesia/banking statistics. For example, 77% of the adult population remains underbanked or unbanked. When you look at the market size of banking in Indonesia, 600 billion, only second to Singapore. However, you know, with this large opportunity, you see that there are still gaps that we can cater to, right? So first and foremost, when you look at lending, the penetration is not only low. When you look at MSMEs, that is also low, right? However, it's coupled with a large positive trend of both mobile and internet penetration, respectively at 65% and 48% penetration, right? So a lot of these facts has given us ideas, and we essentially as a group created a thesis. So first and foremost, we wanted to create an O2O kind of like Sharia ecosystem. And we believe in that strategy because all things considered, when we looked at historical trends, the customer acquisition is much lower relative to if we went and pushed everything online, marketed everything online. And when you looked at when we looked at LTV, so lifetime value of the customer, it was also much higher because with physical, touch points, it's a lot easier to persuade customers to remain on your platform. And last but not least, this is something that I'll spend a little bit more time on, is we've seen a noticeable shift in Sharia product preference, which is also very surprising given that from the get-go, Indonesia is a primarily Muslim populated country. And this is the opportunity, right? So when you look at Indonesia, Indonesia is quite known to be one of the largest Muslim populations in the world, if not the largest Muslim population in the world, right? So 200 over million people identify themselves as Muslims. However, it doesn't translate into the market size of banking. So Sharia banking is only 6% of total. So 94% of banking assets are conventional banks, right? Now this is weird, right? Because when you look at, when you do research, both direct and indirect, most industries, if not all industries in Indonesia is Sharia compliant, right? So when you look at food, most of the food and beverages that you buy in your supermarkets, in your restaurants, most of them are halal certified, right? Essentially, halal is the default, and people get upset if you're not halal certified. Fashion is the same thing, right? So when you look at the trends of young women wearing hijab, it's amazing. When you look at beauty, Wardah Cosmetics, which is a local halal cosmetics brand, in terms of market share, based on our research, is much larger than any foreign brands that are much more formidable if we go overseas, right? Even to the degree of pharmaceuticals, right? Medicine. Recently, we've had access to vaccines, and I don't know if you guys remember, but there was one point in time whereby it was fought against because experimentation of the vaccine was using kind of like pig DNA, right? So we're an extremely devout population, and in every sector, it's Sharia compliant. Even the government is pushing for this. So why is it that only in financial services does this trend not appear? Now, we ask customers, right? Is it true that you don't want a Sharia product? The answer is no, we want a Sharia product. Sharia compliance is the #2 factor when they consider opening up a new bank account. However, trust and product features, and the way we read that is essentially the overall user experience, is also very important. So that's what we keep in mind when we build Aladin, right? So we need to instill trust, we need to be Sharia compliant. However, we also need to push and build a really great user experience. And this is Aladin in a nutshell, right? So we started our journey in February of 2021. We IPO'd in Feb 21. I myself, most of the senior leadership were recruited in April of 21. And last year, we just spent the year building, right? So we're the only bank in the market that does not have any legacy issues. So when we acquired the bank in 2019, what the shareholders did was essentially let go of all liabilities, return all liabilities, sold off all assets. We fired everyone that we legally could, and we stopped all systems, right? So we started with a very clean sheet. So everything was built from scratch, right? Both from engineering, in terms of employees, we grew from 40 to almost 200. We got, nationwide banking ATM coverage. We got banking license. We partnered with reputable companies, all in the short course of a year, and we launched in January of 2022. So everything considered, we built the bank in like 10, 11 months. But after which we continued our partnership, we registered ourselves to UNPRB. We're the only local bank that has done this. And now we're going through our rights issue. So now we're going through a fundraise, right? And this is what we've achieved so far in a very short amount of time, right? So this is our metrics as of last month or 2 months ago, sorry. And we just launched on the 19th of January. So we have already now we have north of 500,000 KYC customers. So these are real customers. We have north of 600 billion in funding, even though over here 370 billion. And we have customers across the nation, right? So we have presence in all provinces in Indonesia. So this is something we're very proud of, because when you think about it, it is a product that shows really great potential in penetrating the underbanked and MSME sector. Very different to the ones that we see who are more dominant in the large cities, for example, Jakarta and Surabaya. In terms of products, right, we try and keep things simple. So we have three main building principles, right? So one, it needs to work offline. The reason why is because given the underbanked proposition and the MSME proposition, they need to be able to go somewhere to ask something, right? So all our products need to work offline. This is quite counterintuitive given a digital bank, but the offline part is typically done through our partners. So we don't own those assets. We are partnering with Alphamart, and we use their 18,000 locations to build a strong offline presence and deliver our products through those offline presence. Now, the number two factor is, given we're a digital bank, we need to make sure that it's frictionless and easy, right? It needs to work on phones that have low memory, low internet quality, low, camera quality. So it needs to be very light, right? So we don't use or we don't build bells and whistles. We only do things that are needed and required by our customer segment. And last but not least is we cater to the needs of underbanked and unbanked and MSM and to be honest, MSMEs, right? So we try and remain focused, even though there would be some requests from investors, from some of our customers, from peers. Why are you not building, for example, wealth management, right, in the coming soon product? We will, but we won't do it now, given that it's not a focus or a priority of our customer segment. And that's the way we determine and prioritize what we have today and what we're building in the future, as you can see on the screen. And this is just an example, right, of what we do and how we do things differently. So Alphamart, given given our partnership with them, we've essentially, touched their customers, employees, and supply chain and partners, right? So for customers, we've already done, member get member promotions. We've already launched the ability for our customers to use the Alphamart cashier for depositing and withdrawal of cash. For employees, we've essentially started to onboard them as payroll accounts. We've gotten all their employees on Aladin accounts, and for supply chain and partners, essentially, we're doing cash management systems for them and also working capital or to be more precise, invoice financing. So this is how we partner with Alphamart, and this is how we foresee our strategy also being different with other digital banks, whereby we rather partner with very strong contenders with very specific use cases and not become a super app. Being a super app is the last thing we want to do. And the team is quite unique, right? So I'm not sure how exposed you guys are to like banking or even digital banking, but when you look into the market, most of the leaders of those banks and digital banks come from banks, right? Whereas we believe we need to have a balance, right? Because even though banking skills and banking knowledge is extremely important when it comes to compliance, when it comes to product, when it comes to finance. However, when you build things that are different and it essentially contests existing products and existing ways of doing business, you need to have a balanced view. So our bank is pretty much 50-50, right? 50 tech, 50 banking, and we balance each other out, right? So our tech folks are the gas, and our banking folks are essentially the brakes, the seatbelt, making sure we don't do anything stupid. Of course, we have our really strong support system. As you can see, our commissioners and our Sharia board have a really strong experience in financial services. And our Sharia board has very strong experience in determining rules, regulations, and are very close to decision makers. I won't bore you with this, but this is our shareholder structure. We're a publicly listed company with almost 40% owned by public. And last but not least, I think this comes to show the great things that our team has done, right? Even though we just started our business in 2022, what we've done has been recognized by all these media companies. And again, I stress we did not pay for any of these, so we were quite surprised also that we got these. That's it. Welcome any questions, Bulia or guys who are on this Zoom call.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Pak Dyota. And I do have one in the chat room coming from Andi Dimas. Pak Andi Dimas, do you want to directly to raise the question to Pak Dyota? Okay, the question is, as a newcomers in Sharia banking, now how Aladin facing the issues regarding about the mixed up product in Sharia banking, not pure Sharia? Because some people are concerned about the product from the Sharia banking is not pure Sharia.
Oh, I mean that's a interesting question. That's something that I've never been asked before. But as long as you are a Sharia bank, it could be a Sharia unit or a standalone Sharia bank. It's 100% Sharia compliant, because before we launch, we essentially need to go through our Sharia board. We need to go through Sharia compliance. We need to go through OJK Sharia. We need to go through our Sharia advisory board, and that Sharia advisory board typically sits on DSN, which is the Sharia, financial unit of MOE, or they sit on MOE. So essentially, if you bank with a Sharia bank, Aladin or anyone else for that matter, it's 100% Sharia compliant. There's no doubt, right? If it's a conventional unit, then you may ask those questions, because these checks and balances don't happen on a conventional bank. But for a Sharia unit, I mean, you can be 100% confident that it's all Sharia compliant. If you're not confident, that means you're not confident in the institutions that already exist, right? Which then we go down to a rabbit hole, right? Whereby is anything Sharia compliant, right? So don't be concerned. As long as you bank with a Sharia bank, with us or with anyone that is a Sharia bank for that matter, it should be Sharia 100% compliant.
Okay, thank you very much for the explanation, Pak Dyota. Any questions from the participants that you can directly questions to Pak Dyota? Okay, I do have from my colleague, actually, Ibu Tatum. Ibu Tatum, do you want to directly raise questions to Pak Dyota?
Hello.
Hello, Bu.
Hi, I'm actually very interested in Aladin as a bank. And I once went to an Alphamart and asked their cashier about Aladin Bank. And they said that she didn't know anything about Aladin at that time.
Yeah.
So I was like wondering whether this is a collaboration with all outlets of Alphamart or only selected, or like how do you convey correct information to your customers in this regard?
Sure. So thanks for the question, Bu. So we went live in January of 2022. And essentially the products and service that we deliver through Alphamart has just been approved by the central bank maybe a few weeks ago. So
Okay.
right now we're essentially doing training and dissemination of information to all of the Alphamart outlets, right? There will be some that perform better than others. So as you know, Alphamart is part owned. So the stores are either owned by the company or their franchisees, right? So I think usually we need to pay more attention to the franchise stores because they tend to have lower service quality. But the target is in all stores. Alphamart, yeah, not Alpha Midi, not Alpha Express and stuff, but Alphamart stores, you should have the exact same experience. And they should know after June. So we'll be launching, this is June, right? So towards the end of the month, we'll be doing a big bang launch. And after that, if you still have troubles, please let me know which store you went to, and I'll definitely.
I think it's just that I asked that questions last year, like end of last year, because
last year we haven't done anything.
that signage already on Alphamart's outlets, right? So
if they knew, I would be surprised.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Because Alphamart signage we installed starting last year because these signboards are a physical activity. We cannot turn them on within a day or a month, right? It's a thing. So that's a continuous effort which will continue throughout this year and also next year. but systems will be live end of June, and with systems you can go live across the nation in 1 day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pak. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Tatum. So I do have one in participant raise hand. Can I ask Pak Konsultan Gian Carlos to directly to give the question to Pak Dyota?
Hello. Hi. Very good morning and good afternoon to you guys. My name is Ian and I'm from actually Singapore. I'm one of the students in business online school in BINUS. I just want to know more about the Aladin Sharia because I've been dealing a lot of Sharia concept business in Indonesia, and one of my clients is talking about mudaraba and musharaka. It's the company of Aladin does mudaraba to certain clients, like they know the know-how, but then the Aladin bank will provide them the investments, and Aladin will co-share the company. And how do you guys settle that in a way where a person with the know-how also want to invest and become mudaraba to musharaka? That's can I just want to know more about this, how a bank deals to the clients.
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks for that question. So when you say mudaraba and musharaka, this is what we call akats, right? So these are the agreements that exist in Sharia financial services. Now, the agreements that we offer depend. So the agreements that are offered depend on which institution or which bank or which entity that you partner with or that you work with, right? So, for example, for financing, we don't have mudarabah musyarakah yet. Our products, existing products, is either wakalah bil ujrah. We're gonna build murabahah very soon. We're gonna build MMQ very soon. So that will be the first musyarakah product. So it depends on the, I guess, the risk appetite of the bank itself or the financial institution, right? Because I mean, for those that thought I was speaking gibberish, all these Arabic words are different transactions, right? So mudarabah is an investment transaction whereby the risk is solely at the bank, right? So if anything goes wrong, then the borrower has no obligation to pay back, right? Musharakah is like an investment agreement, but with shared risk, right? So you will not fund the whole project, but you will only fund a portion, and hence you will only be exposed to a portion of the risk. So having mentioned that, being a bank, especially in Indonesia, right? The industry does not necessarily push mudorobah or musharakah products as is without, layering other akats on top of that. And the reason for that is because at the end of the day, we're a bank. We're not an investment firm. If we were an investment firm, then mudarabah or musharaka would make much more sense. So what do we do to manage risk, right? Essentially do wakalah bil ujrah. Wakalah bil ujrah is a service agreement, right? And for that service, for doing something for your customer, you get a fee. So that's what it means. Murabaha is a buy-sell agreement. That could be used for trading, that could be used for working capital, that could be used for consumer financing. It's quite flexible. And that's based on a certain margin or fee, right? So I guess that there's no right or wrong answer. It highly depends on the risk appetite of not just the client, but also the financial institution that is offering these products. I don't know if I've answered your question. Please feel free to follow on if it wasn't so.
Thank you so much. I totally more understand the how banks have relationship together with the client and for mudaraba and musharaka. I just want to ask if Aladin in future would like to have that kind of services.
Yeah.
Or is there any plans?
Yeah. So musharaka definitely. So we'll be launching that maybe towards early next year. And that's essentially for like a credit card or digital credit card like product that will use musyarakah, but not standalone musyarakah. There'll be additional akats on top of that. But yeah, we have plans. Mudorabah, not necessarily, because that's the most risky. So we'll see. Because again, as a bank, we're extremely regulated. We're not just highly regulated. We're extremely regulated. We're the most regulated industry, like in the world, right? Like in Indonesia or in the world. So we got to make sure that we comply to the risk appetite that our regulators, I wouldn't say force upon us, but give us, right? Which is essentially 5% gross NPL. And having been coming from investments in my previous life, there's no way that you can meet 5% gross NPL if you're taking kind of like equity bets, right? Which is essentially what Mudorabah is like, right? So we prioritize safer products more than the investment products.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dyota. Thanks for answering all my questions. That's it for me. Thank you for back to the host.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Konsulta. So I would like to invite Pak Basil. Pak Basil would like to directly ask question to Pak Dyota.
Hi, Mr. Dyota.
Hey.
I got a question for you. So I still don't know, and I still don't really understand about how this bank works. So can you tell me a little bit more about how this works? Because I still don't catch the gist of what you're talking about, because it seems to be so complicated, right? So can you tell me just like the main thing about this bank?
Sure. That's okay. It's really simple, really. So the bank targets people that don't have bank accounts or have very little access to banks, right? So who are these people? These people are either, blue collar workers, gray collar workers, day workers, people that have small shops, people that get paid on a daily or weekly basis, primarily in cash, right? The reason why we target them is because historically they don't have a bank account, but they have very little access to their bank account. As you know, banks are typically kind of like open from like 8:30 or 9 to 4 p.m. or so, which essentially makes it inaccessible to the segment of people, right, who get paid on a daily basis. They cannot just, excuse themselves for an hour, for 2 hours. Essentially, if they do that, they won't get paid. So what do we do is, okay, if you want to open up a bank account, all you need is a phone, right? KYC onboarding is 100% done on the phone. If you have any concerns, you can go to an Alphamart and ask about it. If you don't have a bank account and you can't transfer money in, and by the way, all digital banks right now can only transfer money in, you can go to an Alphamart and deposit your money, right? If you want to transfer your money, you can go to an Alphamart or you can use the application. So essentially, we're a bank, right? However, the delivery of our services is primarily through our application or technology. We do have offline presence because of our target segment. However, the main difference is we don't own those assets. So when you look at our cost structure, at our balance sheet, it doesn't reflect a bank with large assets. The way we make money is like all banks, we lend money. So as a bank, you get money in as deposits or savings. And then, so that's a cost item, right? In our words, we call them liabilities because we owe people money. The way we make money is actually primarily through lending things out, right? And that was the previous question. What are the different ways of lending things out, right? We can do a buy-sell agreement. We can do an investment agreement. We can do a fee agreement, a service agreement, many things, right? But at the end of the day, we charge more in financing or on these agreements than what we give to the people that save with us, and that's how we make our money.
Okay. So are you saying that this is some sort of a modern bank?
Yeah, it is a digital bank. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Basil or Basil. I do have one question in the chat room.
Mhm.
Hold on. It's coming from Calvin Gibran. Pak Calvin, do you want to address directly to Pak Dyota? Oh, okay. If not, then I just read here is how can Aladin Syariah can compete or even stand out from any other companies? For example, we know Indonesia, there are a lot of digital investment and banking companies that are growing throughout the pandemic. Second one is how does the company stand out from the competitive market and how the company attracts future customer or user in the competitive market?
Okay. No, thank you for that question, Calvin. So you are right. It is highly competitive when you look at industry level, right? So most likely there's 10 plus already digital banks. So it seems on the surface it is. However, when you deep dive a little bit, right? When you start peeling the onion, in our segment, it is not. So when you look at the digital banks that you know, right, who promote super aggressively, right, like Jago, C-Bank, NeoCommerce, Allo, and there's a few more coming up, right? Who do they target? They target maybe people in this room. They target people who have either a affluent or high net worth background. And why do I say this, right? Because the interest rates or the returns that they give is quite high. It's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%, right? On a savings account or in a deposit account. But in full disclosure, and my whole team knows this, you know, if I have money lying around, I put it in a C-Bank because they give me 7% per annum paid daily, right? It's a no-brainer. However, who we so putting, you know, a few $1 million in a high yield account has a very different impact to putting only a few million rupiah in a high yield account, right? If I put $1 million on 7%, I get $70,000. $70,000 is a good sum of money. It's a good chunk of change that you can live with on an annual basis, right? If you put 1 million rupiah, it's 70,000 rupiah. That's not much, right? Regardless of who you are, right? So we target the underbanked and unbanked segment not through high interest rates, but through having high accessibility and high visibility to this segment, right? So whatever you need, just walk through an Alfamart, right? And the way we incentivize them to bank with us and how we get our customers is essentially through that ecosystem. We understand what they want. We understand their transaction behaviors. We know that these customer segments, you know, buy sachet instead of buy bulk. They want rewards quickly instead of wait for a year. So what we do is we partner with Alfamart, the FMCG principals, the distributors, to make sure that there's always a promotion going on that incentivizes them to use an Aladin account, right? So when you look at the customer segment from both a funding or financing point of view, we believe we're extremely different. And I haven't even touched upon we're the only guys that are Sharia compliant. Everyone else is not Sharia compliant, right? So that's another differentiator if you want to count that. But from a product and from a customer segment point of view, we're highly differentiated. What may have overlap is actually on the MSME segment, because a lot of these companies target MSMEs also. Now there will be an overlap. The difference is most likely the ecosystem that we belong to, right? So the GoTo ecosystem versus the Akulaku ecosystem versus the Shopee ecosystem versus the Alfamart ecosystem would have some overlaps, especially from a digital point of view. But for Alfamart, it'll have very little overlaps, right? So we're quite confident that we're differentiated both in terms of customer segment, funding, financing, at least in the short term. Now, in the long term, would everything diverge? The answer is yes. However, in order for you to be ready for real competition that will happen most likely in the next 3 to 5 years, you first need to build a strong base. And we believe that our base is highly differentiated to others.
Okay, thank you very much for the explanation. Are there any questions from the participants who wants to raise a question directly to Pak Dyota? Or maybe to the chat room? We still have some time actually to get some of the insight of the digital banking of Aladin. Well, maybe we are waiting for other questions. Pak Dyota, do you mind if I throw some questions to you as well?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Okay, my first question in regards of the sustainable finance. Maybe you can explain a little bit about the sustainable finance in this case, related to the Aladin. The second one is it very smart strategy, I think, when you are collaborate with the Alphamart? The question is why Alphamart, and as well as this is something that you are trying to get to tap the target market, in which maybe the middle to low income society. Is that true, Pa, or how is it actually? Why
Yes.
is convenience store for sure?
Yeah. Can you repeat the first question again? What about
So-
sustainability?
About the sustainable finance that maybe the Aladin is one of the.
Okay. Yeah. So I think the beauty of building a bank from scratch is you get to determine how you want to build the bank, what principles, what customers, what partners you want to align with, right? That's a good thing, right? So for example, we from the get-go have registered ourselves and committed to make sure that we are fully ESG compliant, right? And that's very difficult to do. It's even harder if you're a big bank, right? Why? Because you would have existing clients that are not ESG compliant. For example, if you follow the news, BRI just said that they're going to start letting go of what was it, coal clients or mineral extraction clients? I can't remember. But essentially, companies that destroy rainforests, dig into the earth, and don't have a good environmental impact, let's just say. Very hard for them to do that. I can understand, right? Because they're already clients, long-standing clients. They make a lot of money together. For us, we started everything from scratch, meaning that we can come in and set our strategy. Okay, we will not be approaching these clients. When we, let's say, approach clients, it needs to be coming from those that comply with environmental standards, social standards, governance standards, right? In terms of sustainability, we also push further to say that we won't be charging exorbitant high interest rates or exorbitant, fees, because when you consider the products that are available for underbanked and unbanked, are there products available? The answer is yes, right? However, those are extremely predatory products. So it could be, coming in from a loan shark, from a tengkulak, from a P2P lending firm, which charges 1% per day, right? So extremely predatory. So we make sure that we rather slowly go down the bottom of the pyramid. So start middle and then below middle and go all the way down instead of going grass above, right? And the reason for that is because we want to make sure that when we build our products, it's sustainable. Can we go directly to the bottom of the pyramid? Yes. But we'll need to charge essentially the same things that all these people charge because it's super high risk, right? Once we've created a base, once created more understanding, once we've created a larger presence, then we can start taking additional risk without actually charging them that risk, right? So that's how we think about sustainability, not in terms of just ESG, but also how we make sure that our clients are not trapped in just borrowing money to make ends meet. We actually want to make sure that they'll be able to increase in their economic stature, right? So that's in terms of sustainability. Now, in terms of the go-to-market strategy, it was a well-thought process, right? Because if we really want to go after underbanked and we do things fully digitally, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be very difficult for it to work, just because you're not used to it, right? So if I can give you an example, if you look at, you know, Grab and Gojek in the early days when they acquired their motorcycles and their cars and whatnot, it wasn't through online marketing. It was offline. The first conversion is always offline. When you look at the larger tech companies, you know, besides, you know, the Tokopedia and the likes, right? The ones that are getting funded, they're all offline or agent driven, right? So we know for a fact that offline is cheaper, is more effective. However, it is less scalable at a certain degree, right? You need a lot of people, right? So the key is to have the benefits of offline while not incurring the costs of offline, right? Which could be salary costs if you hire people, which could be rent if you have locations, right? So the way we went forward was, okay, offline is and will continue to be the largest part of the Indonesian economy, even though tech is increasing and we're essentially a tech firm. But customer segments, especially those that are middle income and below, would still require this offline element, right? So what do? We partner with people that have strong offline elements. The only two companies that have very formidable, you know, positioning, offline positioning in Indonesia are two. One is Alfamart. The other one is typically the one across the street or next door, right? So we made a very informed decision that if the target segment that we're going after is SMEs, is the underbanked, then we need to have a partner that can serve them, that can help us serve them, right? Does that mean we don't have digital partnerships? No. So we're partnering with Evermoss, which is an agent-based business. We're talking with a few tech companies. We're with Kita Bisa, that's a donations platform. So we look at the use cases. Now, every single use case would attract different customers, and we just need to make sure that we'll be able to serve those customers using those use cases, right? So yeah, it was an informed decision. It was based on a lot of calculations, because when you go after one partner, then you have to let go of the others, right? Because you cannot get everything you want at the same time. It's typically sequential. So yeah, that was a well thought strategy. Whether or not it works, we'll definitely let you know. All right, so it's very early. It's very early in the game to know if we were correct or not.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for the explanation, Pak Dyota. Let me go back to the chat room. Do we still have no question in the chat room? Are there any questions again from the participants? You can throw the questions to the chat room or go directly to ask Pak Dyota. Yeah. Okay. No. Okay. It seems that we don't have any further questions, Pak Dyota.
Oh.
Yeah. Or well, if I may make a very short summary of your presentation and discussion this morning. So Aladin, I think, have a very smart strategy, for expanding or trying to reach the customer in this case. First, sustainable finance, in this case, that you are choose your target market in this case, or your consumer, for the more to the SME kind of things, and as well as you are collab with the convenience store like Alfamart to reach the unbanked customers, basically like this. And I think in this case also, you make for the future generations to get familiar with the banking in the future. Maybe they not going to have like traditional banking like us anymore, but it is more to their digital banking, in which it is probably going to be very easy for them actually to do the banking. Okay. So that's some of the notes that I can get it from our discussion as well as the presentation for this morning. Again, it seems that there's no question from the participants. So I would like to thank you, Pak Dyota, for the sharing with us this morning. The participants would like to give the applause to the Pak Dyota. You can use the icon actually in here.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, and before we end the session, on the behalf of the BBS, we would like to give a token of appreciation to Pak Dyota as well as to Aladin in here. We are going to send it to you, Pak Dyota.
Thank you so
The
much.
real one, for the real one.
Beautiful, thank you. Thank you.
Again, thank you very much. And we would like to take a short picture. Okay.
Yes, Bu, there are 13 pages here, Bu.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So, to us already, or we just go continue to the 13 pages?
Okay.
Okay, we will start with the slide 1. Okay, for take a picture. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and the slide 2, slide 3, slide 5, slide 6, slide 7. Wait. Slide 9. Slide 10. 11. 12. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pak Dyota. Thanks again for giving the insight to us. And hopefully this is not the first Pak Dyota with BINUS. Hopefully that we can do some collaboration in the future.
Yep.
And we would like to having you again in our events or maybe in the classrooms later on.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Yeah,
so
take care.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye-bye.
And for the students that you have an exit ticket in which that you can claim the SAP, yeah, for that one. Okay, so again for the BINUSian, you can take a look at the QR code as well as to fill in the exit ticket. And do not forget that we still have a session, the second session today starting 3:30 with the BIBIT, as well as check for the tomorrow, Thursday, as well as Friday. We still have a lot of events, very interesting events for you guys. Okay, so thank you very much. And then I see you again, or we see you again in the second session for today. Thank you.